Good evening, everyone. Gary Gabagool here with my boy Sal on the number 22 Red Podcast, a special Labor Day.
What's up, everybody?
Special Labor Day edition. We're coming in with the Immigrant song. Very appropriate.
Bye-bye, dreamers.
Very appropriate to President Trump tomorrow with DACA. But first and foremost, want to wish all the hardworking people out there in America, all the deplorables, everyone out there, a very happy Labor Day. It's tough, man. 2016 to 2009, those Obama years are tough. Putting food on the table, working hard. You single mothers and single dads having to support your family on a single income, very, very difficult. So this day is yours. So I hope you had a great one with your family. And first and foremost, wanted to get started with North Korea. And didn't want to talk about this too much, but Sal and I are just going to kind of give our introspective viewpoint of what's going on. And from what we see is this guy is a literal madman. He's a maniac, and he's ratcheting up the not only the rhetoric, but yesterday it was concerning. Up until yesterday, I really wasn't thinking much about this guy, this little fidget. But they said, and by all intelligence standards, not just America's, around the world, is that he wasn't bluffing this time. They said that his warhead was 4 to 10 times more powerful than anything they fired in the past.
Yeah, it was a big hydrogen bomb.
It was a big hydrogen bomb. So this is serious now, people. And this morning, our ambassador, Nikki Haley, had a special meeting, an emergency meeting with the UN. And it sounds like, from what I can gather, that China is on board. I'm waiting to hear from Russia. And I don't know why, and I don't want to make jokes of this, but I really would like Putin and Trump to be in communication, because I think Putin is a level-headed guy when it comes to this stuff. He understands the ramifications. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sal probably knows better than me, but Russia has more nuclear capabilities than we do they not?
Oh, yeah, and especially since they're closer.
Yeah.
They're way closer to North Korea. I can't see it going down that spiral, that path of us going into nuclear war with North Korea. I don't see it happening. I mean, it could happen. I can see, if he provokes us in a certain way, or if he attacks someone else, that we're going to go in there and take him out for sure. But I just don't see it even getting to that point.
I can't see it either, but it just seems like it's getting so intense. And I don't know if you saw yesterday the pictures of this little dope laughing and clapping. It's like he scored a touchdown on an NFL Sunday when they fired up the warhead. Him and his dopey, dressed in their Nehru jackets.
If you guys want to read a really good book about North Korea and give you some serious insight about what goes on there and how the people actually live, read Michael Malice's new book about North Korea. He breaks down every facet of their life, and it's really introspective and crazy how they actually live over there.
Right.
It's straight up when they say the Hermit Kingdom. That's exactly what it is.
It's basically a 25 million person population camp, but prison camp.
The way they have that whole thing set up is the regulatory system that they have on the people is that everybody snitches on each other.
Yes. Every
week they have a get-together snitch session, and if you don't say that you did something bad or you weren't worthy of such and such a praise, people will say it to you. I mean, it's basically a tattletale society.
Right. Can't trust anyone.
You can't trust anyone, exactly.
Yeah, it's got to be a shitty way to live.
It's horrible, and especially they're in famine for years.
Right.
They have no food.
No food. It's a labor camp, a 25 million person labor camp.
I saw they had, who really knows? It was on television news. I did watch this one television news segment about they had a female North Korean soldier who escaped, and she would say how they were fed, how it was over there, and she said that they only got fed 3 spoonfuls of rice, 2 spoonfuls of rice for lunch, 2 spoonfuls of rice for dinner, I don't know if that's real or not, but this is what a defective.
How could they fight us? They'd be undernutrition. They wouldn't.
That's my whole point. Yeah. Is this all for show?
Right.
All those they're forced into marching because they're so scared. If
they
don't march,
they're
going to get killed.
Right.
All that stuff that they put on for the television cameras, if they don't do that, it's way worse for them.
And I got to say, before we move on, is I enjoyed General Mattis coming out. And for those of you who don't know that guy, Mad Dog Mattis, he's just a man's man. He is the prototypical United States 5-star general soldier. He basically said, North Korea, we don't want to confront you. We don't want to, mess with you. We want to have a peaceful world. However, if you attack any of our allies or even threaten any of our citizens of this country, we will annihilate you, decimate you, make you a poof on the world stage. And I thought that was kind of interesting because he's the kind of guy that you take seriously, and he means it.
I mean, we have supersonic nuclear missile. I mean,
Right.
we have the best of the best. What are you gonna really do?
Right.
What kind of war are you trying to start here?
Right.
Not gonna last long.
It's exactly. So hopefully, we just want to cover that real quick because I know it's on people's minds, and you know, of course, when you hear this guy, you know, on the news, this is all you're hearing about. And it's funny though, I haven't heard the Democrats talk a lot about it. They criticized President Trump a few weeks ago, but it just goes to show you that he was right. And he said the appeasement of the Obama and Bush administrations have led us to here. And he said the appeasement stops, and even threatened South Korea and said, you know, we're going to cut you guys off if you guys continue just to appease these people, because these are bad people and you can't keep it up.
Well, I feel like the liberal mentality about it is, since this is like a serious subject, this isn't like social, this is like actual seriousness.
Yeah, they're quiet.
No, they just wait.
Yeah, they wait.
To
they don't. That's it. They don't say nothing.
So if it turns out good, good. You finally did something right. Good job. Now if it goes bad, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have went in there. I knew something was wrong. That's why we didn't say nothing.
It is kind of funny. They don't talk about anything of substance. It's always some type of social.
Well, yeah, it has to be some kind of social justice warrior
topic, or something where
something about your gender.
They could play like both sides of the fence and never put a definitive answer down. But the next thing we want to talk about is DACA. And for those of you who don't know what DACA is, it's a deferred action for childhood arrivals. And this was an Obama policy brought in June of 2012. And believe it or not, people, I know some of you may not know what this is, but DACA is currently representing 1.7 million illegal people, not including their parents.
Yeah.
So let's think about this. If you have 1.7 million children, you're looking at a population minimally of just this group of almost 3 million people. You almost have to double it. No, triple it actually, because you're talking about a father and a mother predominantly. So you're looking at, could be, you know, and obviously there's people with multiple children, but just hypothetically, it's triple that. We're talking almost 5 million people that are here illegally. And the thing that concerned me, or the thing that came up to me, and I don't know if some of you are aware of this, is that President Trump says he wants to end this or put a six month hiatus on it. Tomorrow.
He's doing it tomorrow.
This morning, and like Sal and I talked about last week, this morning Ivanka, his daughter, and Jared Kushner said they were against what their father was doing. They wanted to keep DACA implemented. And I think this is a dangerous precedent that is being set by his daughter and Jared Kushner for many reasons. But number one is, I think it's kind of like Michael Corleone said, he said to Fredo that time, he said, whatever you believe, you never go against the family in front of other people or the public. And it seems like the last couple weeks that Ivanka and Jared Kushner have been doing that. And I'm not saying you can't have a differentiating viewpoint. Maybe that's what he likes. Maybe he likes to get their opinions or whatever. But I think at some point, they really don't hold true positions in the cabinet. They're more of like advisors. At some point, I know he loves his daughter to death. And I know if you're a father, I know your daughter is the apple of your eye. And you know, I could even talk about my wife. I know how her father felt about her. And Sal knows this. But at some point, you have to tell him to tone it down. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. Like, they're going against you publicly. Like,
exactly.
That's what you said. Like,
makes you look weak.
Yeah, you're the man, and obviously he's not. He's not weak at all. So, like, just to have your kids, like, make it all seem like you're on the same page, even though. Like,
exactly. And it gives ammunition to the rhinos and the enemy.
Yeah.
Oh, look, his own daughter doesn't even agree with him.
His own daughter.
Right. So this is something I've been saying, because basically, here's the deal with these DACA people, and this is where it gets sticky. These individuals that come in under the age of 18, they get to go to college for free and high school for free. Now, think about that, people. If we want to send our kids to college, we got to pay for them. There's no free rides for us. And these kids are going for free, and they're being financially subsidized through us. So you have kids come from all over the world that go to our major universities. They get a free ride.
In my opinion, this whole DACA was institutionalized by Obama because before, the policy was for immigrants that if you had family members, you could
Yes,
come.
exactly.
So I feel like he was like, let me get the kids in here. They have aunts, uncles,
And
grandparents.
there'll be a sympathetic.
Yeah,
you have to be sympathetic to a child.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like, and they brought in like 900,000
right.
to begin with, almost 1 million just to start off the program. So on top of the tremendous burden where it does financially, you have to look at it as, like we always say, terrorist and other way, like other things, because
just a
he's
burden.
Obviously bringing in these people that have nothing to do with our society. They don't care about us at all. They just want a free education, and free money.
Free money. And this has been going on now for way too long. And it's about time that somebody did something about it. And listen, people, this is what I find to be hysterical when I hear you liberals say, oh, you don't care about kids. I know it's almost like a no-win situation.
That's the way they set it up. They set it up.
It's a no-win situation. However, I care about American kids. So let me ask you liberals a question. I have a question I'm going to throw out there for you. You have a kid from Mexico who comes here, 16 years old, 17, ready to go to college. And then you have your kid. We'll call your kid John Smith. Same age as that kid. And your son wants to go to college too. And guess what? The same college you're going to go to, John, that kid from Mexico gets in, your kid doesn't get in. Felipe gets in. And then you have to go to your kid's second choice. And you find out, because Felipe and John Smith, your son, go to the same school, that Felipe is going to that first school for free, costing him nothing. And your son wants to go to the second choice, and he's paying 45 to 50,000 a year. So what are your thoughts on that? You okay with that? Because you know what?
Can you be?
You can't be. If you're a rational thinker, you can't be. Because think about this, people. Felipe's family, who's coming over illegal from Mexico or Middle East or from wherever, hasn't put in 1 cent of taxpayer money, work, have no ancestors that have just come here to do exactly what Sal said, sponge the system. Meanwhile, an American family whose ancestors went to war, fought in Korea, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, whatever the case may be. So right there, you have a vested interest in this country. Ancestry means something in this fashion. Your freedom is based on what your ancestors did for you. So that's number one. Number two is that all the years of you been working. So if you're an able-bodied man or woman, you've been working since you were, say, 18, and now your kid is 18, and you have 25 years of work, and you've been paying taxes. Why should we be paying taxes to Felipe, who comes here and gives nothing and takes?
Doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense.
It absolutely makes no sense financially.
Nothing.
But that's the thing. Things that are good politics are bad social economic, like bad social policy. You can't.
Exactly.
It's like you can't talk about money and saving children, or vice versa, and have it not get political and people go crazy. It's just a no-win situation. That's the way they set everything up.
Yeah, it's completely and it's just to the point where people love the whole idea that you call them dreamers, that all these little tag words that you give them, like you're going to crush a dream, like people like.
What about the American dream?
With the American dream, that seems to go into the shitter, the American dream. But all these other dreams, oh, you can't crush their dreams, but our dream always gets shit on by these
people
liberals.
Born in this country, they have second fiddle to their dreams.
Exactly.
It makes absolutely no sense.
And I think that the liberals sit around a table, like Sal and I are sitting around, and they think of all these cute little tag words to use, or children and dreamers, and oh my God, you're gonna crush spirits. Like, I get all this shit. It's so cheap.
Like Bernie Socialist came out and said everything. It's like, dude, I love that every time something like this happens, a major piece of legislation about comes out, like the left just instantly insert foot in mouth is what they do, and just start speaking.
They can't help it.
And I love it. I really do love it. Like they kill themselves over and over again.
It's they can't help it, and all I can think of is all of these lame brain, crazy ass ideas are all being bred out of universities and colleges. It's like we keep talking about it, and just I have to mention this because there was a couple stories I read. When you read a story and you say this can't be true, it just can't be true, and then you don't say anything to anybody because it seems so ludicrous, and then you go in and do your research and you find that like Sal and I always do, we double or triple check it, and we find out that it is true. Well, speaking of university as one of the, we call it the incubators of hate, anti-American behavior. Think about this, people. This is not I wouldn't say this is an Ivy League, but it's definitely a top echelon college in America, supposedly. And it's Cornell University out of New York. And Cornell, I read today, is the college is encouraging students to file bias reports against other conservative students who react negatively to their safe space behavior and maybe criticize them. So, for example, and they're putting pamphlets all over the college, and they're even have little statements like consider hiring a lawyer against these people, where you could file suit. Where if you have a month, or we'll call it like one of these little faggots on campus who have a safe space, and somebody criticizes them or makes fun of them, they want them to file a report to the college, and then the college can label that person a bigot, a racist, or a discriminatory. And the thought process behind this, I've been out of college so long that this was not something that would even cross my mind. I mean, it's not something. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I can't even explain. You've been in college, out much shorter than me.
What this is just a blatant attack on all sides on free speech.
Right.
Is what it comes down
exactly.
to. And they're trying to get away with taking away your free speech. So as soon as they take that away, they can really start putting forth their true agenda.
Yeah,
which is insanity.
It's exactly. It's amazing. When you're a student in college, I can go back and think about when I was a student. All I gave a shit about was studying, getting good grades, and getting the hell out of there and go to work and making money and not worrying. I didn't worry about what other students said or did, unless it was something outrageous, but it wasn't. Like, everybody just went on their own way. My own biggest concern was going to the cafeteria in between classes and having a cup of coffee, or going to the, in college it was called the Ratskeller, which was a bar, going to the bar and having a beer with my buddies. That was it.
Kids today are too focused on social media.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous.
It's all about the image, man.
Yeah, it's completely nuts. And then
it's sad.
It's sad. It's pathetic, actually. And you see them every day. I mean, we're bringing up a generation of pussies, just pussified
you can't say
people.
Anything to anybody without them getting offended in a certain way.
It happens every day to me, and it's not just. And I gotta put a little side note to this. It's not just kids that are in college. It's happening to adults I talk to. And when I talk to an adult, and I don't mean to keep saying, but it does happen at the coffee shop 90% of the time. These are adult men and women, 30 years old, adults. And they're offended by my questioning them of their belief system. It wasn't like I approached them, they approached me. And then when you go back at them, they use that transference thing that you're attacking me when, well, wait a second, asshole. You came into our conversation and stuck your nose in it. You started it. Right. And now you want me to sit here and listen to your nonsense and not correct you because everything you're saying is wrong. It happens to me every day.
They started with political correctness.
Right.
That was the beginning of the end, what they wanted for free speech. And there's the thing, I remember when it all started and not taking it too seriously. I thought it was a joke.
I did too.
PC culture.
Yes.
Remember when people started explaining?
Well, it was comical.
It was. I was like, this is a joke, right?
Yeah.
And then it just kind of got more and more serious. And so many people started taking it seriously. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't know who would take it seriously. That in itself is a joke, that you could take political correctness seriously. Because let me tell you something. If you come from where I come from, nobody's politically correct. You can't be. You get your ass kicked. I mean, it's a free-for-all of anti-political correctness, and it happens every day. It's just a complete goof.
And this is where Donald Trump is from.
Right.
And this is why people can't understand him.
Exactly.
This is where we're from. He's from where he's from. And this is the way it is here.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm going to give you an example. Political correctness is so out the window with my friends and I that I was paralyzed and had a broken neck. My friends goof on me today because I can't turn and look at Sal. It's a joke. Most people would be like, how could you say that? Even people have said that before, like, well, how could you say that to him? And I laugh. I'm like, it is what it is. I'm happy. I'm walking. And they wouldn't be saying if I was paralyzed, God forbid, in a wheelchair or, but they goof on me and we do it to each other. So when I hear people saying, oh, your tone is too loud or you shouldn't say that, I just laugh. I'm like, wow, when did our world get so fucked up? Yeah. I don't understand. It is so messed up. It's sad, actually. Very sad.
I'm right there with you. What had free speech, man? That was
Free
the whole
speech. You're right. They want to stifle free speech.
I've been thinking about that a lot this week, and especially after the couple podcasts we listened to with that guy Brett Weinstein and Jordan Peterson again, and they were going over just the campus culture and all that.
Yep.
It comes down to people not being able to freely express their feelings.
Yep.
And
they don't want to discuss it.
And then being suppressed, and then being hated on, and then being called a name for it.
Yep.
And it's wrong. It's truly wrong. Everyone has at least in this country, we have the right to a free speech and our free own opinion, and have someone take it away because they feel shamed by it or it invades their free space or safe space.
Yeah,
is absolutely it almost hurts my safe space.
Right.
Right. If you want to break it down.
And people, just to give you a little Cliff Note version, what Sal's talking about, on the Joe Rogan podcast this week, he had Brett Weinstein and he had Jordan Peterson, and it was a very heavy-duty conversation, very top level, high level. Jordan Peterson is from Canada, but he's a Harvard graduate. He talks a lot about, he's a Harvard professor, I'm sorry. He talks a lot about, freedom of speech and the alt-left, the way, how crazy it's gone.
How curtailing speech for social justice.
Yeah, and that's
going to be wrong.
And then interestingly enough, he had Brett Weinstein on, who's the guy from Evergreen University, who was he was against white people staying home for the day. That's Dempsey, and he basically got shunned and almost beaten on and chased down by his own students or students of the college. And these are two very bright individuals. And to watch the debate, it went on for 3 hours. And the one thing I can tell you is, like I said, it was very high end, but it was so refreshing to watch two individuals
talk it out. And both at the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And it was they were two adults.
And they were reasonable with
right,
each other.
Reasonable.
And one time Jordan Peterson did, what do you do? He's like, that comes off as a little bit fascist, Brett. And they joked about it.
Exactly.
It was a joke that he called him a fascist. He wasn't being real or serious.
Right. And it was I listened to the whole 3 hours. I watched it. I watched it one evening, and then I got up in the morning. I finished it because it's 3 hours. But it definitely will add IQ points to your.
Definitely will open your eyes and be like, whoa, this is what is actually being taught in college right now.
Right.
This is some insanity.
And then I want to talk about two. And here's two other stories before we get a little more serious, because I figured we'd add some levity to the situation. But I don't know if you guys heard this, and we all know California. And for those of our viewers from California, the deplorables, I know you're not nuts. We're not talking about you. We love you guys. But California is by far the land of the fruit and nuts. This is just a friggin' crazy-ass group of people that are in their Senate, their Congress, and their city councils, and we all know who they are. But they just voted to pay gangbangers to be peaceful. Think about this, people. When I read this, I'm like, this can't be true. So I went back and looked, and I went on to, it is true. So now any person in California can declare themselves a gangbanger. And then what happens is, if they don't commit a crime, they get a stipend of money. So this is wrong on so many levels. It reeks of corruption, because like I said, anybody could say they're a gangbanger, and probably people will. And how do you disprove they're not? That's number one. Number two is, you're just encouraging bad behavior. Yeah. This is like the little kid who
you're encouraging.
Yes, it's insanity. It is the most crazy thing. And I asked a question this week on Facebook, and I said, what does it take to be a congressman, a senator, or a city council member? Actually, I guess it takes nothing. You don't have to pass a test. You don't have to have a certain IQ. You don't have to have a resume. You just go out there and just say you're going to run in the inner city as a Democrat, and you win. And how is it that you go? I don't know how this works, how these brain-dead people become councilmen and senators and congressmen. I don't get it.
To that point, we were listening to a podcast with Dr. Richard Heyer.
Yep.
And he is just like he's a doctor of intelligence. I guess it's hard to really say. He does IQ.
Hopkins.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he graduated from Hopkins.
Very bright dude.
He studies intelligence and IQ levels on people. And he said, according to him and his surveys and his studies, that out of the 300 30, 40 million people that live in this country, 15% have an IQ lower than 80.
Yep.
15% of that's over 50 million people. Now, if you guys remember from like our first podcast, I asked Gary, I was like, how much of the population do you think is just complete fucking idiots? And he said, probably about 50 million. And this guy, when we listened to it, we started dying laughing because it almost confirmed it.
Yeah.
About 51 million people have an IQ lower than 80 in this country. It's alarming. It's alarming because these people breed people. These people breed. They have jobs. They work. They actually have some kind of semblance of life.
And it's horrible. And I would like to. I know they wouldn't go there, but I would like to have the breakdown of how these people have play out, depending on where they live and race and origin, all that stuff.
I would love to see like what region they're in, what races they are.
But it probably would never happen.
It would be amazing breakdown to see that.
But the last funny story. No, it was good.
Yeah.
The last funny story, and I find this, and this is a New Jersey story, and we always talk about politicians thinking they're above the law, aka Hillary Clinton. And obviously, her and her cronies all are, but this couldn't have been any more evident. We have a piece of shit congressman here named Bob Menendez. Bob Menendez is one of these guys, the holier than thou guys. He comes on his Twitter and his Facebook page, always pontificating the his virtues and what we all should be doing in New Jersey. I can't even read it when he does it because he's so full of shit. Well, he's getting indicted and criminally charged for a host of offenses, a host of felonies, and he actually went in front of the judge and said that he should be spared and not charged because it's so important to the people of New Jersey that he represents, that he votes. So it enables them to get their voices out for him. So the judge, which is comical, commit crimes, and the judge laughed at him basically and shot him down. But just think of that for a second, people, how whacked out these politicians are. Arrogance.
Yeah. I read that same thing, and he was like, well, due to my superior... the way he even phrased it was like, what?
Yeah.
What do you think you're, what,
exactly,
Superman? Yeah. What, Batman trying to save crime?
It's exactly the point, is arrogance of these politicians. And if I don't know if you know, but back in the day, not too long ago, his daughter, and I don't know her name, but she used to come on Fox as the liberal point of view. And she would always be spewing all this garbage about how great her father was and how he was a champion for the people, and he was the person. And I was laughing because I knew all along that this guy is lining his own pockets and as corrupt as the day is long, and he proved it over and over again.
I'm sorry, I was like, I distracted my doodles.
Dempsey, my dog, is flipping out.
He was like, I'm done with him. I'm leaving.
And then the last story, and this is it. I'm like the funny story. Is this former vice president candidate Tim Kaine.
This is a great story.
We found out that his son was a member of Antifa.
And he looks just like
him. It looks just like him.
It looks like an Antifa member.
Yeah, he looks like
a scaly skin, meth head looking type dude.
Pedophile looking.
Yeah.
But he just got arrested in Minnesota for all sorts of illegal behavior regarding violence and stuff for Antifa. So this I just find to be comical because Tim Kaine is
we always said that this guy.
We said it. We said about Kaine.
We said it when we saw him in the last elections. We're like, look at this guy. If he doesn't look like a child molester, if something is up with him, like in his personal life, who is?
So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree for the former vice president. Thank God,
candidate, nominee, whatever. Thank God the
nominee did not get in because having that creepy bastard in and his son now causing fighting and riots for Antifa just goes to show you. But so those were our kind of, I would say, funnier, enlightening, stories.
Yeah. Did you know that this is another one I'll add on? Do you know Trump was talking about pardoning Julian Assange? Like seriously?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'm all for that. Me too. What Obama said he was going to do.
Obama said he was not going to prosecute whistleblowers.
Yeah. And what happened? This major whistleblower comes out. But I think I'm going to put him in jail for treason.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of, there was a couple things. This being Labor Day. And I had an inordinate amount of people this week telling me that Obama is the greatest president. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if this was on the news or I don't know if someone, because it wasn't just one person. It was a group of like 3 or 4 different individuals that said it from all parts of the country. So it had to be something that was on CNN or CNBC or something in the paper where somebody read and got the bright idea to tell me this. But they basically went on and on about how great Obama was. And I sat here and I laughed, first of all. And then, obviously, if you go against them, they call you a racist. And, we could address that. We have for many, many podcasts and weeks. But the one thing that being Labor Day that I thought of, and I had written something about this, and I went back and looked at it and did some additional research. But basically, in the 8 to 10 years, the 2 years pre-Obama to Obama's 8 years, was the frightening destruction of the middle class. And if you go about and do any, talk to any economists or any sociologies of theocracies of basically societies, the middle class is the living, breathing organism of group of people that keep it healthy and vital. And when the middle class is faltering or withering away, you have a very unstable country.
I call it the real working class.
Exactly, the real working class. So I went back and looked at this, and my information is from the U.S. Census Bureau, so it's legit. And this was actually information under Barack Obama's tenure. So you can't say it was made up. You can't say you all you could do your research and look it up. I've done mine. But basically what they said was, and it was backed up by the New York Times and Wall Street Journal, but they basically said in the 8 years Obama was president, the net worth, meaning the accumulation of money and worth that the middle class have dropped 36% in 8 years. It was the biggest drop in our history. And I thought about that for a while, and I think personally, and I'll throw it over to Sal to make give his point of view. I personally think it was a calculated effort by Barack Obama and the puppets pulling his string, because doing something like that makes your country become more dependent on the government, and you have more of a global mentality, one world, and that's what I take on this.
Exactly what they were going for.
Yeah,
that's like the whole big push. Like we've been saying since we started the show, that they're trying to institute socialism.
Yes.
And with the socialism comes the just destruction of society.
Yep.
Hands down. And then this is going back to your original point. Is like I think you said something about why do these people love Obama so much? And then when I go against them, they call me a racist.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, people, I'm calling it. You might as well call me Nostradamus. He might have even done it while we're talking right now. But Obama's going to put out a Facebook, Twitter statement tomorrow, like denouncing the Dreamer thing. And all it is going to be just socialist rhetoric.
Of course.
It's just going to be total nonsense. But on the left, they're going to go
crazy.
Our savior.
Right.
Our savior's back.
Right.
And like to an enlightened, reasonable person, they can see it coming miles away. Like I just told you, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
This is all pure speculation on my point, but I will bet money.
And I want to tell you something.
Bet money that it happens tomorrow.
If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. When Sal predicts something, I don't know what it is about this kid. He's right every time. Hasn't been wrong once. And so he will be right. And it might not be next podcast, but it's going to happen.
He will say something this week.
He will say it, and he's right. But there was something else that I found interesting. And you hear this a lot from liberals. They always say, oh, you evil conservatives are for Wall Street, and you're for the top 1%, and you don't care about the little people. And I thought about that, and I said, well, and at the time when they said it, because the rhetoric was very high, they all think they're talking about their grandpa's conservatism, back in the 1950s or late 50s, early 60s. But I went back and I said, you know what? Before I criticize these people, which would make me a hypocrite, let me go back and look at what, what our Muslim President Obama is. If he's talking the talk, let's see if he's walking the walk. So what did I do? I went back and I looked, and guess what I found? I found everything they were saying was the complete polar opposite. Meaning that, guess what, people? Under President Obama, the top 1% of our country got incredibly huge. They went from 29% to 49%. Poverty, people in poverty who he said he was going to help, all these programs for poverty, people that were poverty stricken, remained flat. Actually, they were down 0.2%. So he basically didn't help them. He didn't do anything for them except get their votes, and he got a lot of their votes.
Yeah. Well, I always do my Obama. Well, you're going to be able to keep your plan. You're going to be able to keep your doctrine.
Exactly. And then obviously the 20% that gained and the 1% had to be lost somewhere, and it was lost in the middle class. So that's a complete antithesis of what President Obama said. So I always say, don't listen to what the man says, listen to what he does. And liberals cannot get that in their thick friggin' skulls. They want to tell me all this rhetoric. Oh, he said this. And then when I show them stuff like this, they automatically put their hands over their ears and they run away from me. This is what happened to this individual the other day. He just didn't want to hear it. But I just wanted to give you a couple other crazy stats that came out from this. It was also Pew Research, which is a really good research group. They're one of the top legit research groups. 1 out of every 3 person in the middle class are in collections for something. That's huge, 33%. This is nuts. 1 out of every 6 prime working age men between the ages of 26 to 44 do not have jobs.
I fucking think
that is scary as shit, because these are when you're supposed to be earning the most money to set yourself up for your retirement and have a family. So if men cannot be working between 26 and 44, how are they supporting their families? Even if they have a working wife or girlfriend, you need 2 incomes today.
Yeah, that was the one major downfall I always saw with Obama's numbers. They're like, well, look at the unemployment numbers. They don't take into effect the number of people that aren't looking for jobs anymore, who they don't count statistically anymore.
That was part of the thing.
That was like an extra 20% of people. And they're like, oh, but the thing is up 6% or 7%. Add the 20% that stopped looking.
Yep. Yeah, and
you're at like 27% unemployment here, man.
Huge.
And you see, I see it
that kind of goes, what you're saying.
I'm go to lunch on like a Tuesday. I'm like, how the fuck are this many people at Wegmans right now? How is this even possible?
There's a lot of people. Even at, listen, when I'm at my coffee shop, I'm working, but I see a lot of people just walking in, and they're dressed casually.
Not working.
And I'm like, wow, what are all these people doing? How are they supporting their families? But that's something then. And then the other thing is, home ownership is at an all-time low in our country for anybody, which is kind of scary, because this is just this is how you get your wealth increased if you're a middle-class person. And they said there's a rare economic phenomenon. It's called the twin vices. It's called inflation with deflation. And it's very simple. They said the prices of all goods and costs and services are going up exponentially as personal bank accounts and money worth is going down. That's a major problem for people in the middle class. So that was the whole thing of Barack Obama. And any of you liberals out there, I challenge you, Sal challenges you, in a civil way. I had one this past week on our podcast. I had told him all this. He was not civil. He just came back with a bunch of nonsense. But I challenge any of you to come back with an argument. Sal and I love opposing viewpoints. We love to debate, you guys, because we know our shit. We know the facts. And when it comes to facts for liberals, it's like Superman to kryptonite. You guys can't handle it.
Or it just comes down to, like I was telling my friend the other day when I was hanging out with him. He just asked me, he's like, what do you think about Donald Trump? And I told him exactly what I thought. And, this, that, the other, the media not giving him the fair shake. Just, watch if he gets his tax reform done, how people might change the perception on him. And all it came down to my friend was, he's like, someone like that can't be president though, right? Just every point it came down to, he goes, someone like that can't be president though, right? And I just looked at him and I was like, dude, well, what were your other options? And did you vote?
Right.
Well, no, I didn't vote because of, I'm like, all right, dude. And this is where we kind of stopped, because we're good friends. We didn't want to get into this kind of, that kind of heated debate. So we kind of let it go right there. But I could see in his eyes, he saw where I was going. And I was like, dude, you see that you're wrong, right? You see it. And everyone that was around was kind of like, well, yeah. If he does pass these business regulations, things are going to get better. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. You know it's the media.
I think a lot of people, and I will say this. When we're talking about IQ, I think there's 2 different types of IQ. And people may say, what are you talking about, Gary? But I think there's an IQ that people have on their jobs, which make them they can have high IQs on their jobs. It's been proven. If you can do, whatever you went to college for, or if you're book smart, or you're able to do a task very well, you can have a job IQ of 200, specific to your job. But then there's, I call it social IQ. And I think, that same person who has a 200 job IQ can have a social IQ of 50. And what I mean by that is they're basically borderline, I don't want to, I guess we talk about being not politically correct, but I guess borderline socially retarded when it comes to things like Sal just mentioned. Like,
you don't have to give up retard, bro. That's not the word. We're not giving up retard.
But I'm like, if you're going to sit here and say some of the things people say, like, I just can't grasp the fact that you have adults in our society today that can just reiterate the mantras they hear on CNN or CNBC or amongst their liberal friends, and they do not one bit of investigating, not one bit of research, or they give this, like, the arguments I have with people this week is, oh, that's my feelings, or that's just the way it is. Like, dude, your feelings don't mean shit. When did social media, I think the only thing, one of the huge downsides of social media today is it's giving a platform for everyone to think what they're saying is important. In the past, no one would listen to them because they're assholes. But now they have a Twitter account, or they have a Facebook account, or they have a smartphone, and it gives every fool in the country, regardless of their IQ levels, their knowledge, their base of facts, it gives them a platform to talk. When in the past, no one would even listen to them. But now social media gives everybody, these idiots who have pointless, baseless ideas, the idea to come out that what they think is important.
Yeah, it's sad too. No, you see it too when you look at these people. You'll go like, who could possibly even be these people's friends? Mm-hmm. And you click on their name, like, oh yeah, no one.
Right.
No one could be their friend because they're that ugly and disgusting.
Yeah. Or just dumb.
Yeah. Like, and by ugly ignorant. And disgusting,
yeah.
I mean not by looks. I mean just them, their soul. Like,
it's just ridiculous.
Before we started the show today, I looked up liberalism ideology.
Yep.
Because I wanted to know what the definition was. And it kind of blew me away that after reading the definition, how anyone who thinks liberally could be a liberal just by reading the definition. It makes you come off as a weak person.
Yeah.
But anyway, the definition comes as support a strong role of government in regulating capitalism and constructing the welfare state. I'm going to repeat. Liberalism support the strong role of government in regulating capitalism and constructing the welfare state. That just reeks of horribleness. You want them to regulate your money and construct a way to give it to you.
Yep.
Instead of you earning it and then you spending it the way you want to. You want someone to do it for you.
Yep.
And that's basically what me and Gary, a lot of what Gary's been saying all along, is that these people want mommy and daddy to give them handouts. Exactly. And that's basically what the definition is. When I read it, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We're not just making something up. That's actually what it is. That's what it means.
Exactly. I don't understand, like...
It's a mental disorder.
It is a mental disorder.
It comes down to it's a mental disorder.
Well, I only can go back to my experiences, and I know a lot of your experiences. I remember being a kid, and, my father was a really tough son of a bitch. He was one of these guys that most fathers care about their kids playing sports, and they're proud of their kids playing sports, and that's cool. I did play sports, but my father didn't give a shit about that. My father had one idea in mind. It was working. That was his hammer that he used to hit me over the head with. No matter what, he'd like get up and go to work. I mean, I've been working. I had a paper route when I was 5 years old, when I was in kindergarten. And I remember waking up every day 5:30, and I met a lot of my good friends who, as they got older, had paper routes also. But I remember the feeling I got when I used to bring home my own money. I'm a kid. I mean, I'm 7 years old, and I remember, I would have $100 in my pocket at 7, $120, and I loved it.
It was great because you could go spend it however you want.
Right, or save it or do whatever. Like, and when I was a little kid, my mom gave me a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which was an incredible book for you parents out there on teaching your children how to save money. It was not a tough read, and I mean, I can honestly say I had some of the, from working. And for those of you parents out there, I'm not trying to tell you how to parent, but for those of you parents that don't emphasize very strongly for your kids to work, you're making a huge mistake, because you're doing a disservice. And I'll tell you why. Some of my best experiences of my life as a child have been, besides playing Little League Baseball, which we all loved in Belleville and throughout the country, but was working.
Yeah.
And I had some
Second that.
incredible experiences because as a child, I learned to deal with different personalities. I learned to deal with criticism from my bosses at the time. I learned to deal with, basically problem resolution, conflict resolution from customers or problems I may have had on the job to make them better and make solutions instead of crying and discipline. All this stuff I learned.
Especially working those kind of jobs, it really helps you navigate personalities.
Exactly.
Especially
perfect.
Later in life,
yep,
you're going to meet all these people again. Of course, not the same people, but you're going to meet all those personalities again. And then you have firsthand knowledge of yourself of like, oh, I dealt with it this time. It wasn't so good last time. This is how I dealt with the situation last time.
Right.
It didn't work out so well.
You learn.
So now if I do it this way, this time, it might be better. Like you learn from your situations previously.
It's phenomenal. And so I think it's something that, and for those of you who grew up in the Newark Belleville area, you guys are going to love this story. And it's one of my favorites. When I was like 10, 11 years old, I was a paper boy. The Red Shingle was my customer. It was a go-go bar. So I would deliver a newspaper every morning and put it through their mail slot. On Friday night, at 10, 11 years old, I'd drive my bike around, I'd collect. Back in the day, used to have the old, wire and paper and used to cross it off. So the gentleman who owned the Red Shingle, his nickname was Avalanche. That's how big of a man he was. His hands were the size of my head. He was a monster. His head was this big. And for those of you in Belleville, you know what I'm talking about. So I would go in at 11 years old and he would pick me up, put me on a stool, and the go-go dancers would be dancing in front of me. And my eyes were as big as saucers. And I would be sitting there. And I remember he'd be my first stop. So I really have no money in my pocket. So as I sat there, he would tell the waitress to get me a soda. And they would put the soda in front of me. And he would say, kid, sit there for a few minutes. I got to take care of a few things. And I'd say, okay. So I sat there for like a half hour sometimes. And the girls would come by and give me money. They would tip me because I'm this little kid, and they would laugh and say, oh, here's $1, kid, or whatever. And I'm just sitting there, and they're practically naked. I never told my mom. And then he would, after like 30 minutes, he would come and he'd owe me like $5 and he'd give me like $10. And then I wouldn't want to leave, and he'd say, kick me in the ass. Say, come on, kid, get out of here now. See you next Friday. But those are the things as a kid that would like. I went back and told my friends, and I was like, oh my God, that's can we meet you there? And I'm like, no, you're gonna get your ass kicked. But I was like the guy because I used to get into a strip club at 10 years old when all these adults were there. So it was just it's just something that you learned and you just have so many good things.
Yeah,
so
you have so many good memories from working.
Right. And so my point of the being is that as an adult today, when I don't see a healthy adult male or female for that matter who can work, who doesn't even try, how can they have any pride in themselves? How can they not be embarrassed and humiliated to be taking money from other people they don't even know, raising their kids for them? It's embarrassing.
That's what I thought about food stamps. Like
Exactly.
that one story I told you about the girl I worked with who was on food stamps. I couldn't. And she was, I think she lives in California now, so there you go figure. So
Right.
There go figure mentality, you know.
Right.
It blows my mind how people actually like, yeah, I'm gonna go on food stamps to my family.
Well,
It's fucking crazy.
Right, exactly. It used to be something of shame. Now it's a pride thing. But speaking of food stamps, one of the other Obama things is more people are on food stamps when he left office than ever before. But I got to give credit to switch gears here to Monica Gio. She sent me something that I didn't know much about, and it's kind of alarming to me. Just that this is and the reason I'm telling everyone this is the kind of perspective that our former president had, and how alarming this can be. But in March of 2016. President Obama signed something called the Defense of Liberty Enabler Act. And what this was it brings the United States in compliance with the United Nations Agenda 21. So you may ask what Agenda 21 was, because I didn't know what it was. And what that means is, in case of civil unrest or national emergency, President Obama signed over the rights of the United Nations sending troops into America to basically bring civility or calmness to a tense situation. Now, why would he do that? We have our own police forces. We have our own military.
We have our own Coast Guard.
We have our own Coast Guard. We have our own National Guard.
Yeah.
Why would the UN want to stick their friggin' noses into our business? Because what it does is it enhances the Jade Helms Protocol, which started this a long while ago, but it lay dormant. No one gave a shit about it because for this exact reason. America didn't need help from the outside. So the UN doesn't help America on anything financially. They want to take, that's been proven, but now all of a sudden they want to help us with giving us troops. Nah, that's bullshit. And basically, if you go back and read it, this is called, the Agenda 21 was a UN sustainable development plan. And what their goal was in 1993 was to make one world government, one bank, one currency, one law, and one power throughout the whole world. And this is what President Obama signed up for.
Yeah, it's just another, I was going to say that act is just another way to institutionalize socialism.
Exactly.
That's all it is.
Exactly.
It's just another stepping stone that they want to go through.
So it makes me sit here and say to all you people, like this week, and like I don't mean to keep bringing it, but this week I had so many people bring up this clown's name. And I don't know why this week it occurred, because Hillary's name remained pretty quiet. But for some reason, 5 different instances, 5 different people, 5 different places all brought up Obama as the greatest president, or Obama doing this, Obama doing that. And I just thought about it. And then as they said, they criticized President Trump. And, they would say something, President Trump can't keep a cabinet. And I thought about that. And I said, is that alarming that he couldn't do that? And then I went back and I looked, and I did a shitload of research on this. And do you know Barack Obama, in the 8 years that he was president, his appointees were decimated. He had hundreds upon hundreds of people leave, and you would never know because the media never reported. I mean, think about this. In the past few weeks, we had Scaramucci leaving, we had Bannon leaving, and we had Gorka leaving. That's all you heard about, is that these 3 men that the media said, oh, Donald Trump has people leave. I could tell you in the first year, Barack Obama had at least 50 people leave, way more than Donald Trump. And you never heard anything. And I could go down the list, but I want to bore the shit out of you. But what the basis of what I got out of this is the kind of Back to the Future of our podcast was the one thing I noticed, and it was completely alarming to me, and I didn't know this at the time. I kind of did, but President Obama had a plethora of ex-Goldman Sachs Wall Street guys in his cabinet. I mean, a ridiculous amount of Wall Street guys. I mean, he had this guy Dennis Paulson, who was Secretary of Treasury, who he was in charge and heading up the $7 billion TARP payout. $700 billion.
These are the same people he bailed out, right?
Yes.
He bailed out Goldman.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he bailed them out.
Just confirm it.
So we're talking $700 billion. So that was Dennis Paulson. And to be fair, Dennis Paulson was a Bush appointee, but he got laid over and he got held up. But let me tell you something. Barack Obama had a guy named Robert Rubin who did the same thing. He was kind of in charge of destroying the housing market. And then when he did, he got fired. He got appointed to Citigroup, and he made $50 million in Citigroup. And that was also where Obama gave him all these contracts and lectures and all this stuff. And then it worked vice versa with the Clintons. And then we had a guy, Larry Summers, who was another Goldman guy. Same thing, same MO. Then we have a guy named Tim Geithner. And I don't know if you remember Tim Geithner. Tim Geithner was the head of the IRS. But interestingly enough, Tim Geithner wrote all these new tax laws. And then it went reported that Tim Geithner didn't pay his taxes. And when it was brought up to him why he didn't, he said he forgot.
Shut up.
The guy, I'm not even making this shit up. This is true. Go look it up.
That's so messed up.
Tim Geithner, who wrote he's the IRS guy writing the tax law, said he forgot to pay his taxes.
You can't
make that shit up.
Make that up, man. That's like a movie.
It is.
Come on.
It's actually so stupid.
Yeah, that's so dumb. It wouldn't even be in a movie.
Right. You can't even do it. But that's what he did, and it's just completely crazy. And then we go back, and we know the trail of corruption with the Department of Justice under the Obama administration. Because first there was Eric Holder, and we can get into the Fast and Furious. I won't get into it. You guys know all about that. Loretta Lynch. But there was something that flew under the radar, people, and this is criminality at its highest. As Sal always says, the arrogance is mind-numbing.
Yeah, mind-numbing. I believe I can get away with anything, and they do it.
Right.
And then they get caught.
Well, in May 23rd of 2010, AIG lost billions of dollars. They basically robbed billions of dollars. And they found that their losses accounted for $180 billion. It was a bailout. The money just disappeared. So the Department of Justice, the Republican Congress at the time were in the minority, or I don't know, in 2000. Yeah, they were in I think they were in the minority until 12. They wanted to, and Obama said no. Eric Holder will not be pursuing any charges against AIG, and they didn't even bother. We're talking $180 billion into a financial company that just robbed it.
Just give me one of them billions. Just one of them billions, I'll be good.
Just think about that.
Come on,
just think about that. It's nuts. And the last thing that blew me away, which I don't even know how to explain this. It's like the Wild West of finance under Obama, but he guaranteed. Now we're talking $180 billion is a lot of money, and it is. But look it up, people. In June 2009, Barack Obama basically quadrupled down on a George Bush directive. George Bush started it, but he didn't get to complete it because his presidency was over. But the baton was picked up by Barack Obama in June of 2009. That's a mere 8 years ago, people. And he basically gave all of these banks that were faulting, that were robbing, that were stealing, he committed to them $13.903 trillion.
Instead of letting the ones fail and the other one, instead of letting some fail and some emerge.
Right.
Killed us.
The problem with that is people say to me, "Oh, but didn't he give the money to save all of us?" He created it. It was created, and the money was stolen. It was all those guys paid themselves back huge bonuses, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars bonuses to all these big executives. They all got their perks back. They all got their back payments. This is what the money went for. It didn't go for you and I. It did not.
No, it's so sad. It's so dumb. People are so dumb that they think it actually did.
Right. Like it's ridiculous.
Same way they bailed out the car companies. They should have never did that. They should have never bailed out the banks. They should never bailed out anybody. People fail. That's what happens in business.
Yeah. It was frightening, and just like he did a lot of like little stuff along the way that doesn't get reported on. And so it's funny because I never would have looked at all this stuff up, but since all these people are telling me, oh, that Obama is this, Obama that, and I wouldn't even want to go back. He's gone. He's in the rearview mirror, but it just came to my attention. But the dangerous precedents that he set that's still hurting America today, because I love this too. When Obama came into office, what did the liberals do? They blamed everything on Bush, which was fine. They did. But they didn't do it for 1 year or 2 years. They did it for the entire 8 years. I used to hear it every fucking day. But guess what now? Trump comes into office. They blame Trump. They don't blame Obama one bit. I'll never hear one liberal say,
incredible.
Every single liberal, 100% of liberals will blame Bush. And I'm not a fan of Bush, but they'll blame Bush for all of Obama's failures. Up until the 8th year when he was there, they still would do it. Took no responsibility at all for the person they elected twice. However, President Trump's been in office now for 7-8 months. You never hear, oh, wait a second. Anything that fails with Trump was Obama's fault. Now it's all Trump's fault. And that's the double standard that pisses me off, because that is just hypocrisy at its finest. And it's something I cannot tolerate. It's unacceptable. And I do not like, because one thing I tell you about Sal and I, we were talking about this before. We look at everything individualistically. We don't look at based on party. We don't look at, for example, if someone in the Republican Party commits a fraud or a crime, we don't want to have any leniency against that people, and we'll admit to it.
Call them out.
We'll call them out. I could care less if the person was a Republican and robbed, he should go to jail. If he's a pedophile, he should go to jail. Same thing for the Democrats. You think I give two shits if someone's a Republican? I don't give a shit. I want good people. The problem is there's no good Democrats. If you name me two of them, you had two. You had two good Democrats in the party about 3 years ago. You had Evan Bayh out of Indiana, and you had Joe Lieberman out of Connecticut. Guess what? They didn't agree with anything of the Democratic Party, and they retired or they left the party. They have nobody. I can't name one. Maybe the dude out of West Virginia, Joe Manchin. He may be one of the few that has maybe one. of the guys that has some kind of semblance of unbiasedness to the guy that is giving President Trump a chance. The rest of them are all in the tank. They're all drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I believe it. I know it. You see it.
Yep. But so, what was the other thing you want to talk? You want to talk about that whole that I think this is a good thing Sal wants to talk about. I didn't know about this, but this is Sal's expertise.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some internet stuff right now, guys. A lot of this went under the radar this week. There's this platform called Backpage.com. I don't think many of our viewers or listeners.
I don't even know what it was.
For good reason. Backpage.com is where you go to find like escorts and hookers and all that, ladies of the night type deal, men of the night. You want to chip a dale, you go there too. But of course, through a website or a platform like this, there's always a lot of illegal activity going on.
Do they sell goods and services? I mean, like shoes and stuff, or no?
No,
nothing.
No, not really.
Just that.
Just pretty much. It's just an open forum for.
Wow.
Escorts, okay. Shit like that.
Yeah.
Services.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So, but of course, there was some illegal stuff going on, and it found out there was some pedophilia, sex trafficking going on with 14-year-old girls, hired, what have you. The reason that this is big, not for the pedophilia reasons, is that since Backpage.com is a forum, other forums that we use might be held liable if they go down. So, like, what my point is, if Backpage is found liable to sex trafficking, their platform, such as, let's correlate this to as a Twitter or a Facebook or something else, if something goes down on their platform and it's illegal, they're going to be held liable. So now, let's say someone commits suicide on Facebook Live. Maybe Facebook Live might be held liable. Let's say the terrorism's Antifa.
Yeah,
I'm saying Antifa is a terrorist group.
Well, they are.
I meant ISIS.
Well, they are. Antifa is. Actually.
I know, but I meant ISIS. That's funny. That was a Freudian slip. If ISIS is recruiting on Twitter, Twitter could be held, charged with terrorist activity. Stuff like that. So now, if this really goes down for this this Back.com, if they go down as a forum, they're held liable. It opens up precedent for any other forum to be held liable for illegal activity on the internet. It's huge, and that went way under the radar. This is in the Supreme Court. This is huge. This is a huge deal.
Well, I didn't know about this, and like I said, I don't know who this Backpage is. But
it's basically illegal in itself.
But the thing that I found interesting, or the pearl of wisdom I took away from what Sal said to me was this. We all know that these social media groups that Sal mentioned, Google, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, we know that they've put together, because they're called the Renegade Group. We have discussed this before. That they put together groups to basically algorithms to control conservative content.
Yes.
So here's my thought process, and this came to me when Sal told me this. They're spending all this time and energy and manpower and money on basically censoring conservatives when they're letting pedophilia, terrorism, and crimes go unreported. So think about that, people. Is that where is the social conscience of these liberal organizations that are wasting time and energy on stifling conservatism in the world or in America and letting pedophilia, terrorism, and crimes go? So I'm in agreement with that. They should be held liable, because what I'm trying to say, they can't control all their content, but what's I guess the alarming or the red flag for me is that they are controlling the content of free speech, but they're allowing crimes to go on, and that's the key.
It is. That's exactly the point of it all.
So that's a great point, Sal brought up, because this is what's great about having Sal. I didn't know about any of this.
This is still in court now. We're going to see what the downfall and the results are. More to come still. Just putting it out there.
Because we do know, and not to keep beating a dead horse, but Obama did sign that act with Facebook and YouTube to do the whole censorship thing. Yeah. And Zuckerberg has been working hard. YouTube has been working hard to do it. I mean, I heard reports, we talked about this, that they're limiting a lot of people from presenting their speech, their free speech on air.
Gad said,
yes,
example.
Yes. You know what? Great point. Great.
Gad said, this guy, he is a free speech, clinical biological psychologist.
Very bright dude.
And all he does is talk about how, the difference between the sexes and that there is biological difference. Yep. There is biological difference. It's the scientific movement.
Yep.
And
shut them down.
They demonetized those videos from him, so you can't make any money on them. It's insanity. It's really insane.
Yeah, and they shut us down his ability for free speech.
Yeah.
And then we know, and then just to add on to this, we just know all the stuff that's going on. And to go back to the universities, any free speech in a university that's conservative, they're shutting it down big time.
Yeah, this is just, we're probably running a little long.
Yeah,
we're about to wrap it up.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, did you know about this guy, the Patriot Prayer? You know the guy putting on all the Patriot Prayer rallies? You've heard of the Patriot Prayer rallies, right?
Yes.
They were calling this guy a white supremacist,
yeah,
a racist.
Of course.
You know what this guy's nationality is?
He's probably like half black.
He's Asian Samoan.
Yeah, yeah. He's
like, and he's a bit, he's Samoan people are huge.
Well, it's like my boy Lem.
Yeah, he's like, how could I be a white supremacist, man? I'm Asian Samoan. Like, this is what he goes. This is insane.
Right.
This is funny stuff.
Well, it's like the old Dave Chappelle thing on.
Yeah, the black white supremacist.
It was hilarious. That's exactly what it was. But
like, how could this be?
It's crazy though. But this is the stuff. But you got anything else?
Federal jobs in Washington down 11,000.
Oh, that's right. That's right, people. I know with the economy might be hurt a little bit with the whole thing in Texas. The oil, gas, some food, but like South Point, he has pared back federal jobs, 11,000 in I think in the last week, which is huge.
Got to start cleaning out the swamp, like you said. He's still got a lot more to go, but
so
it's a start.
Yep. So with that being said, people, everyone have a great rest of your day today. We're going out with some Zeppelin.
Yes.
These are probably hands down. You can argue with me, and I'll debate with any of you, but Led Zeppelin is probably the best rock band of all time.
I don't give a shit if they stole their music.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And not for nothing.
It's really good. They did it better.
In 2017, if this came out tomorrow, it would be number one on all the Billboard charts. Because this is just amazing shit.
They were honestly the top.
Unbelievable. But anyone, Sal, Gary Gabagool out. Have a great Memorial Day. Holy shit, Labor Day. And summer's over, people. We're getting to fall. Take care. That was good, bro. How long did he go? Really long?
I think we went a while.